Hey everybody, it's Derek here. Thanks for stopping by. It's February 25th, so we're still in Black History Month, and I wanted to review this old classic. All right, so today we're talking about Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington. This is about as classic as you get. I think it's right up there with the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass. It was included in this box set here that I've been reading through Black History. It's called In Their Own Voices, First-Hand Histories of Formerly Enslaved People. And I'll say this, I loved it. The parts that I really loved about it, it's so inspiring, and I couldn't say enough good about the good parts. But then there are other parts of Booker T. Washington I don't like at all, and I actually really quite hate about his view and the paternalism, the Uncle Tom way that he represents the South. It's very Gone with the Wind, a few of his points of view, and I mean, of course, we're still talking about somebody who is, trying to uplift his race, for the time coming out of slavery, and he did a lot of amazing things. Booker T. Washington was a very impressive person. The Tuskegee University that he established was really an amazing feat, and he goes in the annals of history for a very good reason. So you get to know a little bit about his life story, his early life. I think he was enslaved up until he was like 10 years old, something like that. And then, homeless for a little while, and then he got entered into some sort of schooling and became really, really scholarly and smart. And and then eventually he started his own university, and he calls himself in here the most famous, I would say, black lecturer or abolitionist. I think that's probably not correct. I would probably say Frederick Douglass was, but I'm not exactly sure. What I loved about Booker T. Washington, and this actually still pervades, to my observation anyway, the African community, is a lot of them seem to be really tuned into self-development. I'm thinking most specifically because I have a background with exploring New Age thought, and lots of groups like Bob Proctor, the Proctor Gallagher Institute, which has their problems philosophically and all that. I'm not going to get into that right now. But what they're driving at, though, about uplift, moral uplift, suasion, there is a place for that, absolutely. Even Jordan Peterson, I think why he's so popular right now is because, life is full of a lot of suffering. There's a lot of injustice. And if you're going to be defined by that, man, hell is a long way down. And so you have to have some sort of ruling model of approaching that. You need something existentially that's going to get you to aim up. And I've seen that. I've observed it personally in the Proctor Gallagher Institute, for example, which I think they're teaching a lot of good things. There are problems with their philosophy here and there. But I saw it was really overwhelmingly a black community in that group. I don't know what the statistics would come out on that, but having been to a few workshops, there is quite a robust black presence. And so I know that this Booker T. Washington mentality that, this is how we not just lift up humanity, regardless of race, but even if you are looking in the racial context, this is how we uplift our race overall, is by, doing our damnedest to get educated and to serve people, and to make your presence so undeniably needed. And that's Booker T. Washington's solution to the racial problems in America. Coming just out of slavery and dealing with all the injustices of, Reconstruction and Jim Crow. So Booker T. Washington, he was really tapped into that sort of uplift suasion, and Jordan Peterson is really running with that too. In fact, as I read books like Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram Kendi, I couldn't believe just how devoted to this uplift suasion that Jordan Peterson is advocating. And it's not a criticism I've frequently heard about Jordan Peterson, but the more I've analyzed this history, and I see that this is really, there's a lot of racism in that viewpoint. I'm seeing how Jordan Peterson is tapping into the same thing, and there will always be a market for that, because yes, of course, we should all aim up. The only way we're going to really truly improve relationships between groups, but especially in terms of race, is by making your place within society so undeniably meritocratic. And yeah, Jordan Peterson and Booker T. Washington, I'd say they're extremely meritocratic, and meritocracy has a lot going for it. It also leaves a lot out, because unless basically you're a type A personality or somebody who wasn't born into the worst of the worst of the worst, there really is no way out. And you do need structural devices to pull people out of these situations, especially when it comes to race. So that's where I disagree with Booker T. Washington and Jordan Peterson in the modern age, and people like Thomas Sowell and Clarence Thomas and Candace Owens and Denzel Washington. There's a lot of people pushing this ideology, and yes, it has its place, but meritocracy has a lot of problems too, and it leaves a lot of people out, and it's extremely unfair, and it contributes to a lot of racism. And so that's the parts that I liked about this, I really liked, and the parts that I didn't like, I really hated, because I'm more of the mind of W.E.B. Du Bois and Ibram Kendi. And if we're going to fight racism, we go completely anti-racist. We don't peddle in uplift suasion. That's not how we're going to solve the problems for Black people. Is just Black people need to behave better, and then finally they'll get enough respect. That is bullshit. And if anything, that has hindered, that sort of attitude has hindered Black progress. Besides, and I would say this to Jordan Peterson, because even though he's not so much interested in the race, he talks about race here and there, but he's speaking about activism overall, whether you're talking about fighting for LGBTQ rights, or fighting for feminist rights, or fighting for, racial rights, or economic class rights. He says, clean your own room, essentially. Physician, heal thyself. You fix your own corner of the world before you go out and you fix the world. And the problem with that philosophy, while there is something to be said for it, is what if that is your way of aiming up? Is by calling out, really overt racism, calling out overt sexism, or discrimination of any variety. It certainly doesn't prevent Jordan Peterson from speaking out and seeing what he sees wrong in the world, does it? And it's kind of like Obama, Michelle Obama's, when they go low, we go high. A lot of people took issue with her because, maybe we do need to go a little bit low. Yes, we shouldn't let it affect our career advancement and things like that. The long-term view of how we fix racial relations in the United States. I'm thinking, for example, of like Ketanji Jackson, and she mentions this in her book. I think that was in The Light We Carry by Michelle Obama. I guess somebody, when Ketanji Jackson was going to university law school, somebody had hung a Confederate flag somewhere, and so a whole bunch of people, it's prompted a big protest at this university. And so Ketanji Jackson, sort of in keeping with the idea of Obama, she's saying, I decided to buckle down on my schooling and put my efforts in that instead of protesting. And I say, hey, it worked out for you. Great. Good for you. That's wonderful. That's one way of aiming up. But I think that getting out and protesting is still a very healthy way of directing your energies, especially if you're dealing with this on a day-to-day basis. And there's a lot of people who don't have the luck of Obama or Ketanji Jackson. And Michelle Obama said there's two ways of going high. It may involve some protest. It may involve some performative anti-racism and whatever. However, it may also involve a longer view where you're focusing on yourself the long term and taking more of a Booker T. Washington approach, where I'm going to make myself so undeniably useful and of service to others that they can't do without me. And that's how I elevate not only humanity, but especially, this race that has been oppressed. So, again, I agree with it, but racial uplift has really been weaponized. And in the case of people like Booker T. Washington, it's been weaponized inadvertently. And it really is a racist ideology pushed to its extremes. So anyway, this was a really interesting book. I really loved his story. I am a fan of Booker T. Washington. I don't espouse many of his views, but I think he was a necessary personality in the fight of Black emancipation, and just a tremendous person. So really loved that. I'd highly recommend it. I think I put it at 4 stars. I probably rounded up to 4 stars just because of that whole racial uplift. I'm getting really irritated with it. It comes off very Uncle Tom. It comes off very Gone with the Wind, and we're past that, certainly in this day and age. Maybe it was a little bit necessary back then, but I think that we can dispense with it. Tell me what you think of that. If you've read this, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for stopping by. Hey everyone, I hope you liked this video. If you want more like the one you just watched, click the suggested video on this screen. Make sure you subscribe, and to connect with me on my other platforms, my handles are linked below in the description, alright? Take care, peeps. Till next time.